Ever wondered how water, the essence of life, can turn into an agent of destruction? It's a paradox, isn't it? The very substance that quenches our thirst, that sustains our crops, that fills our oceans and rivers, can also wreak havoc on a scale unimaginable. It can sweep away towns, drown cities, and rewrite the course of history. How does this happen? What are the stories behind such cataclysmic events? Today, we dive into the stories of the 5 most devastating floods in history. Our journey begins in 1931, with the Huanghe flood in China. Imagine a year when the heavens seemed to weep incessantly, causing one of the longest rivers in Asia, the Huanghe or Yellow River, to swell beyond its banks. This wasn't a typical rainy season. The rainfall was unusually high, a relentless downpour that the land and its people were ill-prepared to handle. The Huanghe, often referred to as China's sorrow, lived up to its name that year. The waters unleashed by the heavens burst through dikes, inundating vast tracts of land. In its wake, the flood left behind a horrifying tableau of devastation. Between 1 and 4 million lives were lost, making it one of the deadliest floods the world has ever seen. But the human toll was just one aspect of the catastrophe. The flood wiped out homes, villages, and farms, leading to widespread property and agricultural loss. The fertile plains fed by the Huanghe, once China's breadbasket, were transformed into a desolate landscape. The floodwaters swept away not just people and their dwellings, but entire harvests, leaving survivors to grapple with the specter of famine. In the aftermath, the government response was swift, but overwhelmed by the scale of the disaster. Aid poured in from across the nation and beyond, but the task of rebuilding was Herculean. The effects of the flood were long-term and far-reaching. It altered the course of the river, reshaped the landscape, and even contributed to significant political changes as public dissatisfaction with the government's response grew. The 1931 Huanghe flood was more than a natural disaster. It was a turning point in China's history, a tragic testament to the power of nature, and a grim reminder of the vulnerability of human settlements to the whims of the weather. To this day, the Huanghe flood remains one of the deadliest natural disasters in human history. Next, we travel to 1844 North America, where the Great Flood wreaked havoc. In the heart of North America, in the year of 1844, a cataclysmic event unfolded, one that would go down in history as the Great Flood. This wasn't an ordinary flood, it was the result of an extraordinary combination of natural occurrences. Picture this: an unusually heavy snowfall blanketed the region during the winter months. Then, as spring arrived with its warmer temperatures, the snow rapidly melted. This quick snowmelt, coupled with regular spring rainfall, led to a deluge of water that the rivers simply couldn't contain. The result was the largest flood in the recorded history of the Missouri and Mississippi River. The waters surged with such force and volume that they reshaped the very landscapes they flowed through. Towns and villages found themselves submerged, crops were destroyed, and countless lives were lost or irrevocably changed. This was no ordinary flood, it was a natural disaster of epic proportions. But the impact of the Great Flood of 1844 extended far beyond the immediate devastation. It had far-reaching consequences that would shape the course of American history. The floodwaters didn't just wash away homes and livelihoods, they also revealed the vulnerability and unpredictability of life in the American Midwest. This, in turn, affected the course of American westward expansion. In the aftermath of the flood, many people began to question the feasibility of building permanent settlements along these unpredictable rivers. The flood had shown them the true power of nature and the destruction it could wield. This led to a shift in the pattern of settlements, with many people choosing to move away from the river valleys and onto higher, safer grounds. The Great Flood of 1844 was a turning point in American history. It was a stark reminder of nature's power and unpredictability, but it also spurred change, leading to new patterns of settlement and ultimately shaping the development of the American Midwest. The Great Flood of 1844 left an indelible mark on American history. Rewinding the clock to 1530, we encounter the St. Felix's Flood in the Netherlands. The flood, named after St. Felix, whose day it occurred on, was a calamity of epic proportions. It was not caused by incessant rains or a dam breach, but by a storm surge, a sudden rise in sea level driven by high winds and pressure changes. The impact was monumental. An estimated 100,000 lives were tragically lost to the deluge. But the flood's effects were not solely destructive. It also led to the creation of Zeeland's intricate waterways. These winding channels, now a characteristic feature of the region, were born out of this catastrophic event. In the aftermath, the flood left scars that forever changed the landscape of the Netherlands. It led to significant alterations in the region's geography, transforming fertile lands into vast water bodies. But it was not just the physical landscape that was altered. The flood triggered a shift in the way the Dutch managed their water systems. It spurred the development of advanced flood control and water management strategies, which have since become a model for countries around the world. The St. Felix's flood was a stark reminder of the power of nature. It redefined a landscape, shaped a culture of water management, and left an indelible mark on history. The flood serves as a poignant lesson that nature's force, while sometimes destructive, can also be a catalyst for innovation and change. Fast forward to 1953, the North Sea flood took the UK and the Netherlands by surprise. It was an event that would etch itself into the memory of those who survived it, a disaster that would change the way we approach coastal defense to this day. The cause of the flood was a deadly combination of natural factors that, individually, would have been manageable. But together, they created a situation that was catastrophic. It was a high spring tide, a time when the seas naturally swell to their highest levels. Added to this was a severe windstorm, blowing down from the Arctic. These winds pushed the already high waters even further, causing them to surge over sea defenses and flood the low-lying coastal areas. The impact was devastating. Over 2,500 lives were lost in what is still one of the most lethal floods in European history. Homes were swept away, livestock drowned, and entire communities were left in ruins. In the Netherlands alone, over 1,800 people perished, with the UK seeing over 300 lives lost. The floodwaters reached as far inland as 2 miles in some places, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. But from the ruins came resilience. The aftermath of the North Sea flood led to significant changes in coastal defense policies. Both the UK and the Netherlands embarked on massive projects to strengthen their sea defenses. In the UK, the Thames Barrier was constructed to protect London from future tidal surges. The Netherlands, a country with much of its land below sea level, launched the Delta Works project, a series of dams, sluices, locks, dikes, and storm surge barriers, considered one of the 7 wonders of the modern world. The North Sea flood was a tragic event that highlighted the vulnerability of coastal areas to flooding. It served as a stark reminder of the power of nature and led to significant policy changes, shaping the future of flood management. Our final stop is in 2007, with the South Asian flood that affected millions. Shifting our focus to more recent times, we journey to South Asia, a region known for its vibrant cultures, diverse landscapes, and unfortunately, its susceptibility to monsoon-related disasters. 2007 was a year that etched itself into the annals of history as a year of a devastating flood that swept across the region. The cause of this cataclysm was the annual monsoon season, a time when the region is typically lashed by heavy rains. However, 2007 saw an unprecedented deluge. The skies opened up, pouring down relentless torrents of water that were far beyond the norm, resulting in a flood that was catastrophic in its scope and impact. The floodwaters claimed over 3,000 lives, a loss that was felt deeply across the region. But the human toll extended far beyond just the immediate casualties. Millions of people were displaced from their homes, their lives uprooted in the blink of an eye. The surge of water swept away houses, livestock, and crops, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. The aftermath of the flood was a scene of devastation that required a massive humanitarian response. Aid organizations, both local and international, sprang into action, providing emergency relief in the form of food, water, and medical aid. However, the flood's effects were not just immediate. There were long-term socio-economic impacts as well. Farmers lost their crops, businesses were destroyed, and many people were left homeless, which led to a surge in poverty and food insecurity. But amidst the devastation, there were also stories of resilience and hope. Communities came together, supporting each other in the face of adversity, showing the indomitable spirit of the human race even in the darkest of times. The South Asian flood of 2007 is a stark reminder of the ongoing threat of flooding to our world today. It underscores the urgency of addressing climate change, enhancing our disaster management capabilities, and building more resilient communities. As we move forward, let's remember the lessons from these devastating floods and work towards a safer, more sustainable future.